there are people who are teaching methods of finding peace which don't have that link with spirituality. There are other methods which, if you like, are more mental, but they won't be so lasting if they don't include that spiritual element, because only that way will you start to activate the higher centers, even in a small way, from which this peace will flow.
The Spiritual Freedom Show with Richard Lawrence, where politics is not the answer, materialism counts for nothing, and spirituality will set you free.
Richard.
Darren.
So today's show, I think, is going to surprise people a little bit, Richard, because what we want to share, I think, is so simple that they may struggle to believe it. And, which is why I think what we want to share with people at the end is actually an experience that they can try, because I think in experiencing this, they can begin to prove to themselves the truth of these teachings given by the Master Jesus and Mars Sector 6 respectively, and the 12 blessings and the 9 freedoms.
Indeed.
People live a very hectic life nowadays, and I think that just taking a few minutes out of your day to try a practice like this is going to really make a positive difference to your quality of life. So I thought, what we could start with is a little bit of sort of like a manual or a how-to, a simple way to find peace that we're given by the Master Jesus. Maybe you can begin by walking us through that.
Yeah, I think the first thing is that I don't think people know, a lot of people, what peace is. It's very elusive.
True.
And it's sought for in the wrong ways.
Okay.
Relaxation is a term that get mixed up with peace, and to some people, relaxation seems to be going to what we used to call a disco, a club, or
going out,
going out, doing something, relaxing at a football match. Well, I've been to football matches, and not long ago, but it's not strictly relaxing. It can be quite exciting. Yeah. Peace is stillness. First cometh the angel peace to make way for the goddess love, and that's one of the greatest aphorisms I've ever heard. That's from the 12 Blessings. That's the Master Jesus. That was delivered through Dr. George King in 1958 here in Fulham, in London. And it's very important in more than one way, because it's saying that this is a precursor, this is a lead up. It's the same energy. If you take it within yourself, you're at peace. You radiate it to others, then it's love. And to bring peace to the world, you have to be able to find a certain state of peace within yourself before you can radiate that energy outwards. And so it's very different from the old seeker of enlightenment for themselves and not caring about others at all. In fact, it won't work for that person anymore at all. It's all linked in to your life of service. But it does get forgotten. A lot of people think, and I've fallen into this trap myself. I remember going on a trip, and it was a very busy trip. It was an exciting trip. It was an enjoyable trip. And I had periods on it of rest. And then I came back from that trip back to work again. Now, my work is spiritual work, which I'm very fortunate, privileged that is my work. And on getting back from this restful, eventful trip, I felt a tremendous sense of peace when I got back. Much more than when I was there.
So it's like,
and I think it was a part of my being, welcoming the link up with spirituality again, active spirituality. But all I can say is it was so marked. I mean, it might have been somehow triggered by what had gone before it, I don't know. But it was when I came back, and I knew why I'd come back. I had some spiritual tasks which I wished to perform and I needed to perform. And my conscience was at peace with that. And you won't find peace if your conscience isn't at peace. You can try and block off your conscience, as lots of people do, try to do that. Some seem to be more successful. If you're really successful, then you're psychotic.
Interesting.
And you're not really successful anyway.
Yeah, in that case.
But other than that, though, this tremendous peace overwhelmed me, so much so, and this is going to sound really odd, that I was slightly worried. I was both at peace and a bit worried because it lasted for hours.
Oh, really?
And
So
I
it was a
thought
physical experience.
it was a physical thing. It was a tangible thing. It was beautiful, but it was quite overwhelming. And I wondered whether it would ever stop. And I thought, how am I going to function if this doesn't stop? It's some years ago now, and I went to bed still in this state of peace, and I woke up in the morning still in that same state of peace. So it was that long.
Wow. And
carried on for an hour or two, and then it did subside, and I got back into what I'd come back to do.
Sure.
And maybe it's because partly because I hadn't allowed myself or encouraged myself to enter such a state for some while before that. It's hard to say. All I can say is a real tangible force. And as Master Jesus puts it brilliantly, it makes way for the goddess love. And it's something, though, we can all do in short, periods. But it's also something that we won't just happen normally unless we make it happen. I mean,
Yes.
it might come upon you, but then if it does come upon you, you've got to allow it.
Yes.
I'm guilty at times of not allowing it, going back, by the way. I even have thought to myself, well, is this, I'm a bit too busy for this. Wrong. If it's there, you've got to allow it to fill you, because it's obviously something you need. But you can also need it, and it doesn't come to you, and you've got to request it. You don't force it. You can't force it, but you can request it. So in this period, this passage at the end of the third blessing, the Master Jesus actually tells us what to do. He says, walk ye into peace, request it gently, for it falleth, even as the gentle rain from heaven. Let it flow. Offer to this wondrous power no resistance, but let it flow through you all now. And I think we do offer resistance sometimes to when it comes. We should allow it and then radiate it outwards, either through our work, through our contact with other people, through prayer, through healing. There's a little warning I would give. I've run a lot of workshops, including meditation workshops, and even in actually busy bookstores in Oxford Street in London, for example. I've led people into a state of peace, and I've asked them, and they've told me, even though it's busy, so you can be unrelated to the noise around you. But there's one thing that can happen: you can start to become sleepy.
Okay.
And you can, because I think the reason for this is that your subconscious mind is used to, when you get into this state, that means it's time for bed.
Okay.
Because you're not finding peace in your active waking state.
I see.
On the whole, a lot of people aren't. So it thinks that's what I do when I sleep. So you need to kind of reprogram yourself.
Wow, that's an interesting insight.
I've noticed that. I mean, I think in the old ashram, the old days, and some of the Zen or what have you, they would actually beat you with a bamboo stick to wake. But I'm not recommending that. What I'm saying is, you need to invigorate yourself with deep breathing. Probably is the best way, and keep yourself active while still engaged in that peaceful state, which what it allows is a rebalancing of the energies in your aura.
Oh, right. Okay.
Dr. King gave a very revealing insight, and it's published in Realize Your Inner Potential, actually, that blissful states come when you start to activate the heart center, the heart chakra. What he calls basic states of samadhi can be extremely blissful. And you need, again, if you are starting to get anything like that, to allow it. Now, you're going to actually try to raise it. Now, there's a very interesting passage I was reading again. I'll read again from this. At the end of this section by the Master Jesus, he says, open up the door, let peace enter in, then will come the other in splendor to live within your soul. Now, that could have more than one meaning, I'm sure, but if you took that door, for example, to be the heart center. I'm not talking about a complete activation of it, but just an activation of the heart center, and you let peace enter in. This might be energy coming in. You might be about to heal or about to pray. You first of all have to allow energy to flow into your heart center. If, on the other hand, you're doing it as a precursor to a more enlightened state, because peace precedes and bliss precedes a true samadhic state of enlightenment, which is beyond bliss. You don't have any sensation at all. You don't feel blissful while you're in it, because and some people get that wrong, and they get
interesting,
yeah.
yeah.
You feel it before, and you feel it afterwards, depending how much time you're spending. But during it, you're not feeling, you're not even thinking. You are one. You are I am. We've talked about that before. So if you, following this, let peace enter in, then will come the other in splendor to live forever within your soul. And of course, your soul is expressed through the higher chakras, the Christ center, and even the crown chakra, if you're able to go that far. And so then you've moved onwards. It lives forever because you've risen it.
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah, and the whole journey, but that I mean, that's not what we're here to discuss really at the moment, but that's taking it to its ultimate level.
That's right. At least we can see where it's going there.
Yeah. But also, you don't have to do that. You can even, perhaps more usefully, send it out to others. But first of all, it has to live within you, and you have to allow it in. And so this is very balanced by the Master Jesus. He's telling you, first cometh the angel peace to make way for the goddess love. You can radiate it outwards. And then at the end, he gives you, I think, a clue here that you can also raise it upwards to the higher chakra, and then it'll live forever within your soul. And soul consciousness, well, that is a deep samadhic state, ultimately cosmic consciousness.
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing to look towards, and I think as you've emphasized, even the first step is one that so many of us kind of forget to take on an everyday basis. You know, like
Indeed.
just the simple allowing that you've talked about there, which in the beginning.
There's another, can I just say, a beautiful sentence here. Every cell of your body will rejoice. Every part of you will be happy neath this light. And that's another thing. I mean, people ask, how do I find happiness? It's within you. There's no external thing that can give you happiness. It might be a trigger for it.
Sure.
But in the end, though, it has to come from within you. Yeah. And it's unrelated. You could be, if all things were right, you could experience happiness during a very unhappy situation by doing this practice. Every cell of your body is true. Every cell of your body is at peace completely. And it's a beautiful phrase. Your body it rejoices. Joy and peace live within you. But there is a big warning here, and we must cover that too. Yeah. And it's both in the 12 Blessings and the 9 Freedoms. It's put this way by Mars Sector 6. That one person who's rendering service is worth 10, I'm abbreviating it, who retreat from the suffering of others in order to bring about a state of joy and peace within themselves. So this must not be done in order to, in disregard of humanity. It actually won't work anyway. In fact, Mars Sector 6 says, those aspirants who in total disregard of human needs retreat into the wilderness, come you hence, for you are fools. And I don't think that's just a physical wilderness. That's people who are isolating themselves from the needs and the suffering of others. Yeah. And you have that in here, and also the Master Jesus says it here as well later on. I've got to find, I think it's in the sixth blessing. Yeah, here we are. He also says, he who in total disregard of universal suffering does search in these days of peace will find it not. So it won't even work now. For alas, you're commanded to spread yourself in sacrificial action. So it's tied into a life of service. Yeah. And again, it's the perfect balance. But it enhances your service. Yeah. And if it's seen in that light, and not in the long term, this can be done just like you're preparing yourself to give healing. You're preparing yourself to pray, but just allow yourself for a few moments to draw down, allow the energy to come down of peace, and it will fill you. It's a beautiful promise here. Very. But some people think, how do I get that? They complicate it. And there are people who are teaching methods of finding peace, which don't have that link with spirituality that you get here.
The service element.
Yes, the service element and the link with spirituality. Now, some might say God, some might use another term.
Oh, I see.
Some might say your real self, but it is linked, true peace is linked to spirituality. Well, we are the Spiritual Freedom Show. And part of that is finding peace. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can, there are other methods which, if you like, are more mental, but they won't be so lasting if they don't include that spiritual element, because only that way will you start to activate the higher centers, even in a small way,
Yeah.
from which this peace will flow.
Yeah, and I think, as you emphasized there is a real simplicity to it.
Yeah.
And it really calls you home to your own spiritual divine essence, I think.
Yeah.
And to begin to allow that to manifest more in you.
Yes.
Not just in allowing this energy and this peace, but also in the context of a life of service, which you've emphasized there, which I think, I can definitely see it. It makes so much sense that it would be in that context that you could find everything that you were looking for, that your body could rejoice within this light, that you could find the happiness, that you could find that wonderful sense of stillness that would allow you to be in a place where you can offer so much more love to other people.
And then you leave it, and this is the acid test.
Yes, yeah.
You have to leave it to serve others.
Yeah.
And you have to go to places, and I know your good wife, for example, is an active nurse, and there are many other people in fields of rescue services and all sorts of areas, and even the nitty-gritty of doing accounts, books, which are necessary for some spiritual cause, or whatever else, or building, working on a jetty, or, there's numerous tasks that have to be performed which are not exactly peaceful, but they are motivated by peace, because you are doing it for a higher purpose. And you can come back to that, and you need to come back to that. I've met actually people at Mind, Body, Spirit festivals who run events, and I've had a person who's an instructor who came to me for some advice, who will remain nameless, because she couldn't find peace. She was teaching people, but she had lost that connection herself. And she said, "What do I do?" I said, "Well, do you try to turn within sometimes?" She said, "Well, no, I'm too busy." So you can go too far away from it. You have to rejuvenate yourself as well for the sake of others, and only then can you radiate it to others.
Yeah, it's so beautifully put that way. I thought what we could do just in the last few minutes here was maybe just lead people in a practice.
Let's do this.
So
let's
kind of model it in their own life.
Because this is, as well as words of advice, is a practice, I believe,
Totally,
from the Master Jesus. So it's very, very simple. So assuming that you're in a safe place where you can do this, probably a good thing to just place the palms facing downwards on the knees, relax the shoulders. Again, you can gently request them to relax. Or you can make a little suggestion, I now relax my shoulder. We have much more power within us than we think we have. And close the eyes. If, as I say, as long as you're in a safe place where you can do that, you can be seated or standing, either is fine, and then breathe deeply and evenly. Nothing complicated, just long, within your own capabilities, without strain, long breaths in and out, and just to help it along, visualize white light entering to you on the in-breath. And that's just a little preparation I'm adding into this. But we won't modify it at all. We'll just go purely with what the Master Jesus says here. And he says this: "Walk ye into peace, request it gently, for it falleth even as the gentle rain from heaven." Gentle said there twice. So very gently now, almost coaxingly, request peace to fall upon you, even as the gentle rain from heaven. And it will be with the flow of your breathing and with the flow of your thoughts. And then the Master Jesus says, let it flow. Offer to this wondrous power no resistance. Now that resistance could be mental. Could be you start thinking about something else. Or you think, I'm too busy for this. Or all kinds of thoughts could come. That's just resistance. Let them pass. Don't try and block them. Just let them flow past you, and let this gentle rain from heaven, that's what he's calling peace here, flow into your being. Let it flow through you all now. Every cell of your body will rejoice. Every part of you will be happy neath this light.
think it's so simple, so easy. Feel wonderful just in those few moments.
It's beautiful. You can feel it. I can feel it. Can you feel it now? It's there. I hope it's being somehow transmitted to our wonderful listeners and viewers. We really do appreciate, don't we?
Absolutely, and I think it's...
Let us know.
That's
if you
what I was going to say to you.
Okay,
no, absolutely.
Did you feel anything? Try it for a few minutes after the show and see.
Yeah. And if you want to share that experience, do write to us, spiritualfreedom@richardlawrence.co.uk. We love hearing about these experiences. If you have any questions even about the practice, do share them.
Yeah.
But I think, I was just reflecting there just after we came out of it, the next time you're about to scroll on your phone for a few minutes, if you try that kind of practice instead, imagine the difference that would start to create in your life in terms of how you feel.
It will. And another thing that will start to happen when you do practice, just like any teachings of any master, you will start to get that link with the true Master Jesus, what he really is. And he is, of course, the great master of peace and love, actually.
Yeah, beautifully put. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for the show. Now, if you enjoyed that episode, don't forget to subscribe for more wisdom from the 9 Freedoms. If you'd like to find out more about the 9 Freedoms, about Mars Sector 6 by Dr. George King, go to our website, that's aetherius.org. And don't forget, Richard and I love hearing from you, receiving your comments, your questions on your spiritual experiences, and talking about them on the show. So do write to us, share them with us at spiritualfreedom@richardlawrence.co.uk. Always remember that service is the jewel in the rock of attainment. See you next time.